Welcome to the new Sex and Happiness with Lori Handlers and her partner Michael Gibson. You're about to dive into a world where amazing sex is just around the corner. And happiness is available to everyone at any age. It's time to learn a little, laugh a little, and explore sex and intimacy from every angle.
Welcome to another episode of Sex and Happiness. I'm Lori Handlers.
I'm Michael Gibson.
We are going to talk about what drives us to be extraordinary lovers. We're going to talk about why we do what we do, why we do coaching, why we do VIP coaching, why we do couples retreats, why we talk about it, why the whole show, Sex and Happiness, has changed. We're going to talk about what's underneath the premise to the work that we do. And that is that we believe couples are an endangered species. So we think couples should be on the list of endangered species like turtles and tigers and some kind of fish and dolphins. I don't know, everything. Yeah? What else is endangered? What other things?
There's lots of things that are endangered.
Very endangered things.
We're having the what is it? The sixth extinction event is happening all around us, where species are dropping like flies, and it's interesting because human beings are essentially a species. We're a species,
and we're at the cause of all the other species dying. And listen, bees are dying. Yeah. And if bees die, then we won't have the birds and the bees.
Well, worse than that, we won't have the food that the bees pollinate. You know what I mean?
I was just making a...
I get it.
I was making a parable, but you're speaking the truth.
That was clever.
Anyway, couples are an endangered species. How do we know? One, look at the divorce rates. Mm-hmm. Divorce rates are over 50% for first marriages. Yeah. Divorce rates are higher for second marriages. It's something like 80%, like somewhere between 60 and 80%.
Some ridiculous number, yeah.
Some crazy number. And then their third marriages, to me, I wonder if you've been married twice before and it failed, why are you even getting married the third time? I don't know.
Well, it's because I think at some level, marriages are easily disposed. You can simply get a divorce, and boom, it's over, it's done.
But what about the words, till death do us part, which I don't like those words. Right, but what about those words? Why would someone even say that again?
Yeah, I mean, if they made a commitment the first time, and if to death do us part were the thing, what if after you got divorced, right, you had to then go to the gallows and they hung you for becoming divorced? I don't know. It's a sad situation for people, and I think it impacts everybody, not just the people who have fallen out. It
impacts their whole. First of all, it impacts their children.
Correct. Yeah, that's the biggest impact.
Second of all, it impacts their extended family.
Right.
Third of all, it impacts their community. Their friends. Their friends have to choose.
Yeah.
Who am I going to be friends with? Am I going to leave and have a bunch of friends? Or am I going to leave and I'm going by myself? The walk of shame.
The real walk of shame. Yeah.
So that's the first indicator. The statistics on marriages that fail. Yeah. And then there's so many other things. There are people who stay together and they tolerate each other. Yeah. And you always say,
I would rather go where I'm celebrated than to be stuck where I'm tolerated.
There's a lot of tolerating going on, and there's a lot of people that do crazy things. There are signs. Let's talk about the 5 signs that a relationship is going down, the tube.
Wow. Are there 5 or are there more?
There might
we'll
be
stick
more.
with 5. How about that?
I said let's have 5. So one of them is that the people fight.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not even just fighting. It's sort of like that's like stage 3, right?
Okay. What's stage 1?
I think stage 1 is where you discover that you're now walking on eggshells around the other person, and it starts with too much familiarity. People
Okay.
are just way too familiar with each other, and then they think they know. Like,
Okay, they assume stuff about each other like they know too much, like the person is an open and closed book.
right. And that familiarity breeds contempt. You've heard the saying,
Yeah,
familiarity
Shakespeare said that, I
breeds
think.
contempt. And so I think that's like one of the first signs
Okay.
is that there is this resentment happening, and that resentment shows up as, not willing to say what it is you have to say to this person. And oftentimes I think it's wrapped up in this idea that, oh, I know what's going to happen if I bring something up.
Oh, yeah, they're going to lose it.
There's the avoiding of the fight, right?
Okay.
And so a lot of times we simply don't speak our truth. We don't say what it is that's bothering us. And so we go for months, maybe years, holding resentment against another person and not really saying what it is that's bothering us.
And it could just be something really simple like
You don't put the toilet seat down.
yeah, or you leave your you leave your socks on the floor next to the bed.
Right.
I can give a great story about this. I have friends who the husband would just never ever do his laundry, and she was trying to get him to do his laundry. She was like, she's a career woman, he was a career man, and she didn't want to come home and do his laundry.
Right.
And so she was in my women's group years ago, and we told her to stop doing the laundry. So she stopped doing the laundry. So all he had was like dirty shirts, dirty socks, dirty whatever, dirty underwear. And so he didn't do the laundry. He just bought new shirts, new socks, and new underwear. Every time it was time to do the load of laundry, and it was piling up, he just went out and he bought new shirts, new socks, and new underwear.
That's a resourceful man.
And then it piled up to almost the ceiling. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just like she came to the women's group and went like, "You're not going to believe this. He wouldn't still do it. He bought new stuff again."
Yeah.
We said it's time for you to have a talk.
Right. I think it was time for them to have a talk before I'm not going to do the laundry anymore. Yeah. Right.
Anyway, so they had to have a talk. We had to mediate.
Well, that's the difficulty of it, because look, we go to our friends and we talk about all the
We
things.
collude.
Right. We go to our friends and we talk about all the things that bothers us, and then the friends are colluding with you. Yeah, that's terrible. And now there's this view of your person, this special person you've pledged your love to. Maybe you've married that person.
And all your friends think the person's an asshole.
Right. And
That's terrible.
And then that person is then talking to their friends, and they think the other
You're
person's an asshole.
right?
So,
Okay, so yeah, so not speaking your truth is the number one. Being afraid to speak your truth to the person you love for fear that you will blow it up, is the number one. What? The number one.
I think it's the number one thing that starts you down the road towards
Everything
a
else.
breakup.
Yeah.
And it shows up as resentment.
Okay.
So the first thing would be, that you're not speaking your truth, and the reason that you're feeling this resentment is because you feel like you can't say. What's it like to be in a relationship with someone that you feel like you just can't say what it is that's on your mind or what's bothering you?
I've been there.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It is.
Okay, so that's one. Two. What are you going to say? Two is I'm going to say arguing.
Yeah.
Arguing. I think people argue over everything. Like they argue over everything. Like they argue over whose family they're going to for the holidays. They argue over money expenditures.
Mm-hmm.
They argue over how to raise the kids. They argue over what TV show to watch. They argue over everything.
Sometimes they argue over how to argue. I mean, it's bizarre.
Right. Right.
Fighting is so ordinary.
It is.
And arguing is just a way of asserting, your beliefs, or maybe it's your desire to be right. Like you must be right. Have you ever had?
Well, I think it's a buildup of resentment also. I think
it is.
arguing is a buildup. I mean, I was in a relationship where when we should have been making love, we were arguing. We were fighting.
Oh man.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
It was absolutely terrible, and we couldn't stop. I couldn't stop myself. I could not stop myself. It was like a knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
I couldn't stop myself, and it was terrible. And I heard myself, and I was like, in my mind, I was going, "Oh no," like to myself.
Yeah.
And I heard myself repeating the same thing over and over and over, harping, nagging. Oh my God, I heard myself doing that. I mean, I'm definitely human.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I am too. And I've heard myself say the same things, and it's just bizarre. And it's almost as though we've been taken over by aliens, and we can't say what we feel, but really what this broken record is running us in. I call it the always never fight. I don't know if you've ever had this.
Yeah,
one.
you always this. You never.
You always. You never. Oh yeah. Well, you never.
It's so stupid.
Right.
But it's hard to get off it. It's hard to stop accusing the other person and look inside. Like, Werner Erhard used to say about relationships, promise what's missing.
That's good.
Whatever it is that's missing and that you're complaining about, you promise it. You provide it.
Yeah.
You produce it.
Right.
And I remember hearing that and going, oh, could I?
Is that something you could take the lead on and actually create instead of complaining about it?
Yeah,
right.
It was very challenging, but I feel like I'm there now.
What's really interesting is that, and I've said this many, many times, which is that behind every complaint is a request.
Mm-hmm.
And so often it's so, in our culture, it is so misunderstood that the complaint is the communication that's normally put forward rather than the simple request. So the complaint might be, God damn, that trash really stinks, right? And it's full. Look at it, it's full. And then the other person is looking at the trash going, yeah, you're right, it really stinks and it's full. That's a good observation. Yeah, I hate it. Behind that complaint
is it, will you take it out?
Someone take out the freaking trash, right? So will you take out the trash is the request. And then the fight is, well, you never take out the trash. Well, you always complain about this. Why are you always complaining about this? If you want me to take out the trash, why don't you just say, take out the trash? Well, can't you smell it? Can't you see it's overflowing? Why can't you just take out the trash? Right? This is a real argument people have.
It's a real argument. And
it's so ridiculous because what's not happening is communication.
And making a request, a simple request. And the trash
sitting there laughing at you both,
yeah,
right?
Right, exactly.
If the trash could laugh.
Amazing. So what's the third thing? Okay, so we have resentment, not because of not speaking the truth. We have arguing and fighting over really nothing.
Yeah.
Except it starts out over nothing, and then it gets bigger.
It does.
It gets bigger because if you can't speak your truth, then you're suppressed, and anything that's suppressed is going to have to explode, and then the arguments turn into full-on blasting fights because battles even because now we're committed to being right about something rather than just getting it handled.
I think that's the next part. The next step in it is that we position ourselves, and in order to be right. So there's this deep need, right, to, in the midst of an argument like that, to create this I'm right, you're wrong, and you should see it my way. And that's part of the argument. But I think really what's happening here is there's a loss of identity. There's a loss of, instead of having to be right, it's like, who am I really being in this moment? Like with this person that I say I love and I've committed my life to and I've organized my finances and my time and my life around. And I've become this person who just has to be right all the time. And that person is always resisting me and fighting with me and why do I feel like I'm at war in my own home,
Yeah.
right?
So that's like a third thing, which has to do with being. Well, there's a few aspects to it. One is like reverting to a teenager.
Yeah,
You
not
know, like,
having adult conversations.
Yeah,
anymore.
being infantile about
Just
the conversations.
reactionary. Yeah.
That's one piece of it, and another piece of it is we're the product of our upbringing a lot. We are not tabla rasa.
No.
You know, we have our gene pool, plus we have, you know, who knows what's in that, and then we have the influence of the people that raised us. And so in any given relationship, there's not just you and me, any couple, there's also in any given argument, it could be my mother is arguing with your mother.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
your father is arguing with my mother, or some, you know, and like we all know they weren't the best characters.
Right.
So there's all these parts that people play without knowing it, and it's like automatic behavior. Like we flip into it. Like sometimes I think you're like my father, and I say
Yeah,
that.
I was
At
just
least
gonna
I'm
say-
conscious of it.
Yeah, I was just gonna
I
say
say to
that.
you, I am reacting to you right now because I think you're being like Marty,
Uh-huh.
and I am conscious enough to actually own that.
Right. And then I ask the question, how am I being like Marty? And then you will tell me. And there's a skill here that you and I have developed, which, you know, is nonviolent communication. So we follow that method of communication, and being responsible for what I'm experiencing, what I'm hearing, and my upset. Right. So you say, God, I'm so upset about it, and I'm relating to you like as if you were my father, right? And I have the same thing happen to me, and so, you know, I'd love to give you all a way out of this, right? But really, what we're doing is we're identifying what does it look like to be at a stage 4, you know, beyond stage 3. We're now at stage 4.
Right.
And
Well,
this,
we have ways of helping you get out of it, but we can't.
Right.
I mean, you have to come to a retreat or something, but we'll talk about that at the end. I mean, like literally, we can't teach you everything in a podcast.
Yeah.
We can identify what's going on, and if you find yourself located in the crosshairs of what we're talking about, you need to call us.
Yeah.
You know, but we've done the work of identifying it, and we actually pretty much stay out of it.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of this going on in the way we relate to each other.
Right.
But we, like we say, you know, we finally learn from experience. We finally learned from experience. We found somebody, I found you, and you knew how to communicate. And you found me, and I know how to communicate. And I spent money learning how.
Yeah, I did too.
So, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to invest. But anyway, let's go back to the reasons, because we're just doing the ID part right now.
Right.
And if you find yourself located here, you know, pay attention.
I believe, and this is, and I believe I misspoke just a moment ago. We're not quite to 4 yet. We're still at 3.
Mm-hmm.
But this is now where you're no longer the identity that you were when you became a couple, right? So each individual is now dealing with the other person with all these other things that have been going on, these dynamics, the familiarity, the resistance or the resentment that's been happening. You're not speaking your truth, etc. And now you're in this place where it's like, I don't even know who I am anymore. Like I'm responding and just knee-jerk reacting, and who am I? Like, why am
Yeah.
I doing? And you can't now. You don't even know the person that you're dealing with anymore. Who are they? Because there's some semblance of some past that you had and some argument that you had with someone in the past that you haven't resolved
Right.
or forgiven or whatever you need.
I
to
know,
do.
and I've looked at
crazy.
myself in the mirror and gone, how did I get here? Like,
Right.
what? Should I drop acid? Like, what should I do? I have actually. I've dropped
do I need to
acid
do
before to get
psychedelics?
myself
So-
out of some spiral
Some
that I was
loop,
in.
right.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, and then that leads us to the next level,
Yeah.
which is at some point, this would be number 4, at some point you just start to not want to be around that person anymore. And that's where you start to see the separation. It's a resistance. Hey, do you want to go to the movies? Nah, not really. No, thanks. You know, hey, I've got a thing and we'll go meet up with some friends. Yeah, go right ahead. Have fun. You know,
I'm not going.
Get out of here. I don't want to go. It looks a little like that. And it's insidious that, you know, at some point, or if you do go to any of these types of functions or whatever, you do it under duress. It's no longer fun to go hang out with, the Joneses, right? It's no
Right.
longer fun to go and be with this person, and then you have these public outbursts that sometimes happen.
Oh, those are to me, that's the worst. Where
Right.
all of a sudden people use the excuse of being in the back seat with their friends and they start arguing.
Yeah.
Or we were the couple who started keeping score on each other.
Oh my gosh, we had a couple like that once.
Yeah.
We went to lunch with a couple like that. Bizarre. Well, and I can relate. I could relate to
You
that.
could keep score?
Yeah, I could relate to that keeping score thing. But that's because I wasn't, a long, long time ago, I wasn't conscious enough to realize that what I should have been doing was keeping score of how many times I had the opportunity to forgive, right, and sort all these things out. But yeah, no, the resistance shows up in your relationship, and the next thing you know, you no longer want to be around these people. This person that you, again, organized your life around and you spent money on and you did all these things with. And now you're feeling like, God, I just want out. And
Yeah, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
That takes us to number 5, which is the planning. How do you plan your revenge? How do you plan I'm getting out
Your
of this?
escape, yeah.
You suck. You're an evil. Like, you then turn this person into the object of the evil that you want to
The monster.
destroy. And now, and we call that revenge. So,
And I always talk about the famous revenge story.
right. Yeah.
And you met the person recently. You
I
finally
did.
met this person.
Right.
The biggest revenge story I ever heard. I'm sure it's not the worst or the only one, but this was the worst I've ever heard.
Right.
A friend of mine comes home from work one day to find his house completely empty. No wife, no kids, no dog, no furniture, no bed, nothing. There's a shell of a house. He comes home totally shocked to find an empty house with no warning. No warning.
And that took planning, and it probably took years to devolve.
Of revenge. Oh my God. And of course he's happy today and he just recently got married.
He did, yes.
But that was so painful when he told me that. My heart went out to him, it was horrible.
Yeah.
Now of course we've met people worse now.
Oh my gosh.
We've met people who just stay and it feels like one of them is going to kill the other one.
Yeah.
And they fight like crazy. There's like no peace in the house. And this is a second or a third marriage that we're talking about here. We've met so many people. Why? I can't understand why they married in the first place.
And the question really, you and I both are wondering is, are you ever going to be happy with a person? Is there a person who you can be happy with that you're not going to go down this almost already always going to be this way? Like, this is how relationships fall apart.
So couples are an endangered species. Let's talk about it. I think it's intrinsic in our culture.
Yeah.
Because people don't have self-love.
That's a good starting point.
So we could say, all right, so I misspoke earlier, everybody. I said we weren't going to tell you the solution, but I am going to talk about a solution.
Right.
Part of the solution is if you don't have enough self-love built up and stored inside you like a well, if you're looking to what they say in the world of Hollywood and songs and parents, you need someone to complete you, your other half. If you believe that and you don't love yourself enough to just be by yourself, to be who you are by yourself, you're in trouble when you get in a relationship. And all these things start to happen because you're wondering where this other half person is supposed to be, the expectations they're supposed to be fulfilling some other half of you,
Right.
which is ridiculous. And that's really why couples are an endangered species.
Yeah, there's several. Definitely one of the problems is expectations, And unspoken expectations, almost as if it's a written law, but nobody wrote it down and nobody showed the other person.
No one made agreements about it.
Right.
Nobody talked about it. Nothing. And then there's the other piece, which is
the
the other piece of expectations that nobody talked about returning to love. You mentioned it before. You talked about forgiveness.
right.
Well, forgiveness is only a part of it. It's really, there's a practice, there's a commitment, there's a word given to always return to love,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you sacrifice yourself for love
Mm-hmm.
and then you become someone you aren't. It means you speak up and you do the things that we talked about just a little earlier. It means that you speak up, you say your complaints, you make your requests, you risking it all, and then you return to love.
Yeah.
No matter what has been said, no matter whatever. And these here are the subject of the things that we work with.
Mm-hmm.
These are the subjects of the retreats that we lead, the weekends that we lead, and the VIP coaching that we do. We're teaching a set of skills that I never learned from my parents. I never learned from the psychologists I paid. I never learned in any workshop I went to or taught.
Yeah.
I learned it right here in the space between us.
In this related.
And a bit of it was influenced by this one or that one. Of course, nonviolent communication. Baba Des said, return to love no matter what. You have to keep return to love.
Yeah.
We learned bits and pieces of it and we put it together. Alison Armstrong,
The concept of partnership from Alison Armstrong.
Werner Erhard, we learned it and we've put it together in packages that have people learn the skills that it takes to stop being in 1 to 5 of the things we talked about. And we've saved people from killing each other. I'll just say it. We've saved people from killing their husband or wife.
Yeah.
We've saved people from sitting in a room together, empty nesters. The kids are grown and they looking at each other like, who are we? What are we doing together?
Yeah.
We've saved people from things like not being able to hear each other. We met a couple once who, if he said, I'm sorry, she couldn't hear those words. And so how was he supposed to apologize? She said, I don't trust the words, I'm sorry. And he's like, but I am sorry. And she's like,
Well, I can't
hear
I'm
those
sorry.
words. So we had to decipher that and figure out other words. I mean,
that was a tough one because we had to literally come up with words that meant I'm sorry that she could actually hear so that she would get that he actually not just wanted to say he was sorry,
but he was apologizing for something and taking responsibility for it.
Yeah, and he wanted to change it. Like that was a big part
that was so huge.
That was a big part of the problem, which was, yeah, you say you're sorry, but you never change. And this was the conundrum they were in.
Yeah.
It was the catch-22.
And they say that we saved their marriage. And we know that because of COVID,
oh, man.
I'm saying the C word, we know that because of COVID, many of you have been cramped and cooped up together. And your worlds got much smaller. You couldn't run away. We know that like marital violence and relational violence has gone up, maybe 10 notches. Yeah. We know that the divorce rate has increased since COVID. We know that very few people have the skills to work this stuff out. And that's why we're doing this program. That's why we're doing this podcast.
We do it because we want to give couples a shot, like a real shot at being incredibly happy and juicy and sexy. And I think that's probably, I know for myself, it's what drives me forward. It's what drives me to go to the next retreat and to go to the next VIP vacation and to go and to work with couples, because I can see that, there's this underlying like really deep pain of I feel alone and I'm not alone.
Yeah, I feel alone in my relationship.
and I'm not alone.
Yeah, yeah. I've invested so much, and I don't know where to turn. So anyway, that's what we're doing. So we hope that could see what's going on here. We know that if you're normal, somewhat normal in this culture, that you probably are somewhere on the scale of those things we mentioned, because there's almost nobody that we met who isn't. And like, we are into the notion of surrender, but we're not into the notion of surrender because you lost at the battle of love. We're not talking about that. We like surrender in the thing of surrender to pleasure. Yeah. We're an advocate of that, but you can't surrender to pleasure if you're in so much pain that you can't even speak your truth. If you're in so much fear that you can't even speak your truth. If you're in so much angst that relating is causing you, familiarity is causing you, the lack of what was promised is causing you. We want you to have the best life possible. We want you to have what you signed up for.
Yeah.
So that's
our goal. Our goal is to actually have you experience the happily ever after that Disney promised you. Right?
I wrote a great newsletter about that. It was called "Happily Ever After My Ass."
Yeah,
it's hard. It's tough. It takes work and investment. It really does take work and investment. Anyway, I'm not going to go into all that. We hope that I don't know if you've enjoyed this show. Maybe it was painful for you to listen to, but we're identifying the things that are important to us and where we're focused and where we're doing our work, because we know we're making a huge contribution in this world. If we can save the endangered species of couples, we know that the world will be a happier place.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
So we want to leave you with, please get in touch with us. Please go to the website, lauriehandlers.com.
Join the newsletter.
Yeah, join, to submit your email address, and in return we'll send you a newsletter. We'll send you notifications of when we're doing events. If you're a couple that's high profile and you wouldn't want to go on a retreat with other couples, we do special VIP weekends, actually long weekends, for you anywhere in the world you want to go. And if you're not high profile, but you're a couple that hears this and goes, "Oh my God, we're in trouble here. We're endangered," contact us, and we'll let you know when the next time is that we're doing something in the United States or somewhere else in the world. We're doing some things in Europe, and just get in touch with us and let us know. You can contact us also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can contact us and let us know you're in trouble. Also, if you're not, but your friends are,
yeah,
let them know about us. We'd be happy to hear from them. So that's our show for tonight, talking about couples as an endangered species. I feel for you. That's all I want to say. And Michael feels for you. We have compassion. We have no judgment. Mm-hmm. We can laugh about this stuff because we've been through it.
Oh, absolutely.
So many times in previous relating situations, and we're not in it now. And I'm not going to say we don't have any challenges. We do.
Certainly do. But
we return to love.
Yeah. It's a muscle that we've been working on for a great portion of our relating. And I think it's been such a joy to be in this way with you. The ability to relate to you this way has been such a joy, and I love the fact that it seems to get deeper and deeper and more precious. And so, thank you, Lori Handlers.
Thank you, Michael Gibson. Yeah. The feeling is mutual, really. So we invite you to come and join us anywhere. We're a lot of places in the world. We'd love you to come join us, and all you have to do is go to lauriehandlers.com and just send us a note. Yeah. And you'll hear from us. We do answer and respond to people. So that's it for us for now, this episode on couples as an endangered species. Next time, we're going to talk about some of the solutions. So this is Laurie Handlers and
Michael Gibson.
signing off for Sex and Happiness. We will see you at the next episode.